I knew there was going to be some kind of weird tangent that this story would take me to that I've never quite thought of before. And I am kind of both inspired and traumatized as only hard work can do. I feel, I don't know, a little kinship to poor H.P. Lovecraft there. In this video, we're going to explore some takeaways of an H.P. Lovecraft story that I recently read. I'm also going to be doing a time lapse of some art that gets inspired by this, so it'll be maybe fun to watch that take shape and just draw what that story maybe brings up. I don't know if it'll have anything to do with it, but at the end of the day, it might be something fun to watch while we're taking this journey. Let's go. Hey everybody. Hey Mirror Reflection. There's something spooky about that. I had to include him here. Today's going to be a little bit of an experimental video in the different way that I experiment, which is I wanted to take a couple things that I've been doing on this channel and explore them together. One of them is the takeaways that I've been doing after I finish reading the stories on my new YouTube lives. And for those of you who are watching those, you're catching me in the act of inventing myself. There is certainly a warts and all quality about that is kind of scary, and hopefully maybe you find it charming or endearing. Maybe I'm being presumptuous. But I really enjoy after I've finished reading the story, and then maybe I have 2 cents to say, a takeaway or something that jumped out at me, which is really fun. I've only started doing that, and it's started to carry over to my Facebook lives as well. I do a Facebook live weekly, but I'm looking to do the YouTube lives maybe a little more frequent than that. And even on the Facebook lives, I'm starting to give a little takeaway. I'm reading The Picture of Dorian Gray over there by chapters. And I think it's further enriching to share what jumped out at me after each chapter. Because it is, it's just one of those profound books. And philosophically, there's so much that is relevant and timeless and so relatable and easy to enjoy. So I think that has been an ancillary benefit doing these YouTube lives and just doing more and more lives. It speaks to the actor who is really getting to play a lot. It's stressful because there's a lot of prep for all this, but yeah, it's been great. So with this one, I wanted to take my walking and talking vlogging style. It's not my style, but that style that I've been doing. And I wanted to also take the time-lapse drawing and put those together and then maybe further explore the story, where it takes me. And we'll see, I don't know in this moment where the drawing is going to take me. You will know it as you watch the video, which is kind of neat. You know something I don't. For me, it's a dramatic irony, I guess, in a way. We'll see if it's dramatic. But yeah, I wanted to try this. I've been kicking it around in my head the last 3 days, and it's one of those really galvanizing, exciting things that happens, one of those ideas that you can't quite do yet, but as soon as you have the time, you're going to do it. So that's pretty much what we're embarking on today. So yeah. It says more light is required. Well, here we go. So it's a beautiful morning. Well, you can hear the world waking up here, and it's so lush but beautiful and foggy. Look at all this beauty here. The flowers are out, the blossoms. I'm really getting into these feelings of spring. I've been making it a point. Of course, I do think maybe the world is listening here in some way, or God, whoever, and they're saying, spring is great. Let me throw you some foggy days too. Let me throw you a little rain in there. And I feel like maybe the forces of darkness are holding my hand through this. So I keep thinking of that H.P. Lovecraft story that I read, The Festival. And I think one of the things that is really staying with me is a kind of shared, maybe a shared sadness when I was researching where he was coming from when he wrote that story. And this is going to be early 20th century when he did it. And he was in New York City, and he had not been in the country for a little bit, and he came from Providence, Rhode Island, and he was really feeling displaced, I guess. And he makes this story that is about him wanting to not just be back in the countryside, but to experience again the histories of it. And I'm a country boy, and when I grew up, I had a huge sense of displacement. I felt like I didn't belong where I belonged, or I didn't belong where I was. I felt weird in the countryside. And now it's such an inextricable part of me. And I can't deny, I think we all need countryside. You can have people who were brought up their whole life in the city, but then when they go to the country, they feel this sense of nature. It's not to say they can spend their whole life there, but I think we all need to be around trees, animals, feel sunlight. That made me think of 5 years ago during lockdown when they were pretty much outlawing sunlight. And you had the people that were like, that's not a thing. Something's wrong here. I think that a lot of people who felt that way have instincts to constantly be exposed to the natural, and something that is telling you to go against the natural is generally not the way to go. And I think that when H.P. Lovecraft was in New York and he was grinding away, working hard as a writer and dealing with that city, I lived in that city 11 years, there is a sense that a city by its nature has to tell you that you are missing something. There's something wrong with who you are, so that you buy this, you buy that, and you're blitzed with advertisements. Whether it's, early 20th century New York or 2025 New York. And to be in the country and to find your writing voice there must have been so hard for him. And this city's waking up. Speaking of nature and city, it's fun when you can be in the trees and there aren't many of these car sounds. But we'll see if maybe we can get away from that. So I feel this, a little kinship to poor H.P. Lovecraft there. And he goes and he writes this story that is at its core, to me, about getting back to who you are and where you came from. But to add that H.P. Lovecraft special flair, do you want to know? Plot thickens. And are you prepared for what you'll find? Are you prepared for your responsibilities? Because in this story, our narrator is describing this old man who's at an address that he goes to in the town. And he gets to the house and the man can't talk, and he's literally communicating on this board, which is so strange because I read this story, and then a couple days later I met this very sweet old man with his family, and he, we were basically at a restaurant, and beautiful family. He couldn't talk, and I guess he couldn't eat or drink. You could have water, but he had a little I didn't even think about this. That's so crazy. Because this never happens to me. I don't usually meet someone who can't speak and they have to write on a board with everything. And I read this story and I was like, oh, what is that like? And then a few days later, I meet someone who's literally doing that. But anyway, he is describing this person, it's kind of sinister, that their face is, he doesn't believe it's a face. He believes it's some kind of mask that's almost made of wax. And he just has this sense that it just, something kind of false. And it looks like the eyes are just looking, they don't move. Something really weird and creepy there. Brilliant. And he starts to learn, once he sees this festival, this strange underground, literally underground, beneath a church where he follows them. And as it gets underway and it's getting more and more sinister, this strange man with the waxen mask-like visage where his face should be reveals that he is the leader of this clan. And he shows his coat of arms and a special ring, and the narrator realizes that this could be his, long dead, like over a century dead great-great-great-great-grandfather. And a couple other things happen, and then he just runs off in terror. He winds up escaping in some slimy river, wakes up in a hospital. He realizes it's all this dream. And then he finds that there is this book that he was reading in the dream, and he orders it and he realizes he's read it before. And then he starts wondering if the dream was a dream. And I think that one of the things that is really powerful with this story is stillness is where growth can happen. You go out to the country and there's stillness. And then you start to take a lot of lessons that you honestly are too busy to get in the city. The only way to maybe consolidate those two is having a situation in the city where you take some quiet time, you write in the morning, or something like being able to just take stock, take inventory of what happened. Because whenever you are able to get up in the morning, budget some time for yourself, and take inventory of what you have to do, what you did yesterday, what you can extrapolate from it, you move a lot quicker, at least in my experience. I can tell you there were years where I just didn't do that kind of thing, and I felt like I was much more likely to repeat problematic habits. And I wasn't able to say, hey, this isn't working, and then you actually start crafting a kind of lifestyle that maybe reverses that. And that is, I would say that's a bit of a tangent that I think is of value. I don't think it's necessarily what the story's about, but I do think that there is this kind of growth in himself where he's facing his darkness. And that's also an interesting idea, that how much of your ancestors' darkness is really in you. I'm sure there's some of it always. I wouldn't say it's enough to be marginalized over forever or canceled over, There is something very dark about nature that I think the city lifestyle is afraid of. I'd say vice versa. There's everything nature would fear resides in the life of the city dweller is a terrifying thing for both. And H.P. Lovecraft, of course, is known for this building sense of dread of things that are outside of you, the unknown. I don't think anyone really builds that quite like H.P. Lovecraft. I mean, I'm sure there's many, but I think he really brought it up. And like many of the great ones, it was never really realized until he was no longer with us. But yeah, I think throughout my life, I have increased a feeling of wonder at the world and what it can offer. I don't know what H.P. Lovecraft was feeling as he got older, but I feel, at least in his writing, he felt he was onto something, a very relatable human emotion. And he explored it like a master with that writing. Because the way that he builds up cosmic dread, that the way there's something out there in the stars that we can't understand and we don't want to understand, we shouldn't try. Be careful what forces you're mixing with. I think that is such a profound idea, especially now when I think we're kind of mirroring the 19th century, where there was all this hope in the air. There was this belief that, with the steam engine and all the things that it could do for us as a society, and all kinds of inventions that were happening, that technology could really do anything and solve anything. I think in this strange era of AI, we're kind of seeing that again. We've been seeing it since the internet and, well, you name it. There seems to be this thought when a new technology comes out that changes the game, and you get the early adopters and you get people seeing what the inventions are able to accomplish. It's almost like the other side of it that comes with it is idealism and hope that something really special is happening, and we can be on the precipice of this whole new world. And I don't want to say that it's like a Luddite fear of new things or new technologies too much. But at least it makes for great fiction when you have someone who is looking at everything and going, all right, mankind, be weary. A great example would be Mary Shelley. I mean, every time I'm experiencing that book, whatever the monster is saying or what Frankenstein is saying, it never gets old. I think that there is something to be said for a little bit of caution, but it makes for great ghost stories. I think our ghost stories remind us who we are. I prefer ghost stories that aren't really set in the future. I don't know too many that I can speak of that I've experienced. I like the ones that are set in another time, and they just kind of remind us to just keep our ancestors in our hearts. Otherwise, we might as well just be particles and gas that don't think about anything. That's me assuming particles and gas don't think about anything. There is this side of me that sometimes I look at nature and I think, whoa, nature is capable of a lot of terrible things and destruction. But then you also look around and it is capable of inspiring beauty like nothing else. There is no greater beauty than happening on an accidental silence in nature. Having a deer stop what it's doing and locking eyes with you, and then going about his business and gingerly feeding on the leaves, and that is a gift that you get. Woodpecker. I think there's also something to be said for the demands that the city can bring up in you. I didn't really learn the bliss of being busy, and that kind of slight stressful busy, ambitious busy, being in the zone, flow state type of busy until I was in the city. And I try to bring that into my morning routines, and I feel that beauty of what man can be for himself, how he can hoist himself up and be higher to his aspirations with that kind of city type of instinct. And I think that's opposite from just being within my nature, which would be, why would I want to do that? I could just go to sleep. I could get up late. And I think it takes a special impulse, just like it takes to build a skyscraper, to be the employee of a construction company that builds the skyscraper early in the morning. You have to do a lot of stuff you don't want to do, but God is in the work. God is not in the rest. I know God rested, but that is kind of like a plus. That's the Sunday thing that I think should have the other 6 days to it, I guess. And it's what happens in those 6 days that I think is so profound and exciting. And that is another place where the twain meet. So going back to the story, he is waking up in this hospital and he's talking to the people he's describing. Well, he isn't really describing. He's asking them what happened, and they're telling him what they deduced, that he took a wrong path in the fork in the road, fell off a cliff, fell into the ocean or the river, and it was washed up on a shore. And he's asking them where he is, and they're showing him, and it is completely wrong, in his own words, from the rest of the story. And he's totally confused and befuddled, and he's not sure what to make of anything. He gets transferred to a better hospital, and he prevails upon them to order a copy of the Necronomicon, which he was reading in his dream. And he's now in this place where he's able to process more or less what happened. But that is one of the great things that first actually influenced me from H.P. Lovecraft, maybe just as much as any other author I have ever read, was, I think it was a teaser of his one story, The Case of Charles Dexter Ward. And it's nothing more than a man inside of some cave. He sees some black thing trying to get up hurriedly towards him, but can't. And the frenetic energy is kind of creeping him out, and then he wakes up. And he says like a couple things after that, and I found that very disturbing. And H.P. Lovecraft does that so well. I also think there's something wonderful that I really want to have in my life all the time, which is that I am kind of both inspired and traumatized as only hard work can do. And then I get to just take it easy, feel a little rest period, and then I think rest becomes heaven. It is not this nuisance. Rest is a nuisance to me, I feel, if I didn't do enough work. And I knew there was going to be some kind of weird tangent that this story would take me to that I've never quite thought of before, and I think that might be that there. But I have some idea of rest as the drawing I want to do. It's like some kind of reclining pose, but maybe finding one aspect of it that I really work on in there, just to let this be almost like a sketchbook, because I am haunted by this idea that somewhere deep in nature, the countryside has something on me that no matter how hard I work, I can't even touch the depth of it. The control freak in me is freaked out by that. What a beautiful morning this is. I love when, the whole thing, even though this was an idea I was having, I thought I was going to do it maybe in a couple days, but I thought, I'm going to do it today. And what a gift. Beautiful. Happy April indeed. Can't believe we're almost through it. It was Easter yesterday. And everything feels bright and new. In my beautiful morning, foggy Ghost in the Gaslight can't. Hello, buddy, wherever you are. Well, good morning, everyone. I can't wait to see what this drawing is like. Well, that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. You can check out more of my stuff at ghostinthegaslight.com. You can see prints, original art, and be sure to check out some of my more longer form ghost stories if you want at my Substack. The links are all in the description. Love having you here. Be sure to like and subscribe. That always helps me out. And if you'd like to see more like this, there's another one on the way right here.